Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Korsha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Co-incidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. We are into week 24 now. This is our 24th week. Last week I left off giving you proof and a lot of evidence that God had inspired both of the books that we wrote. I hope you were convinced by all of the evidence in last week's message. You'll need a pencil and paper today to jot down a few things, and I'll mention those to you later, but it'll help you to be able to listen to past episodes. If you're just tuning in today and you haven't heard the past ones, you can listen for free if you Google a couple of things. So you might want to get a pencil and paper handy for that, and some other things that we might bring up as well. Now, I left off telling everybody about many things that were evidence that God was sending me coincidence miracles every day while I was writing both books, and I shared many stories and many things. And there were a few that I couldn't get in there, so I thought I'll mention them here as well. And one I'd like to talk about is, often, as I said in the past, God has inspired me to record things on television, often record them, and then he'll inspire me later on, a month or 2 later, or sometimes even a year later, to listen to the recording that I recorded. And so one of those such things was that while I was typing the book, he had me record the movie called Akeela and the Bee. Once again, it's called Akeela and the Bee, spelled A-K-E-E-L-A, Akeela. And Lawrence Fishburne is a star in it, and Angela Bassett is also a star in it. The reason I bring it up is because when God inspired me to call the title of our book, which is a shocking title, the title of our book is Tony's 50,000 Co-incidence Miracles. Very shocking. Try to convince people that I've had 50,000 miracles. But in 50 years, at 3 miracles a day, it comes out to 50,000. Well, he had me record this movie, and I didn't like the looks of the movie. I mean, it just didn't interest me. It's probably a wonderful movie, I thought, but I don't know why God wants me to record it when I read the credits and what the background was. But I did, and then I think this was like maybe 3 months later. I was sitting down for supper, and he suggested, why don't you watch that movie tonight? So, again, with some misgivings, because I didn't like the plot, etc., but I listened to it, and somewhere like an hour and a half, after an hour and a half of watching the movie, suddenly there's a place in the movie, and I explain it in great detail in both of our books, there's a place where someone in the movie says 50,000. They say that 50,000 almost like 20 times in quick succession over like a 5-minute period. There's 5 minutes in that point, at an hour and a half. And for 5 minutes, the actor keeps saying 50,000, 50,000, 50,000. So, and Jesus was inspiring me that's why he had me record the book title that I did. Which is very descriptive. Once you know, and it's easy to remember if you're going to Google it, if you want to look on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, it's very easy to remember. Tony's 50,000 Co-incidence Miracles. So that was one great coincidence, and that was the point I'm trying to make, is God said record the movie, and then months later he says watch it, and it gives me a confirmation of why. And if you see the movie, you'll understand that people in the movie were told to use that 50,000 as well. So the 50,000 in the movie and in my books is both a signal from God in both cases, both for the movie, and that's why I bring it up. It's a tremendous coincidence. It's God trying to tell people in the movie and trying to tell me as well that he's behind this message of 50,000. All right, now another thing that happened to confirm that God wrote the books and God inspired them, I got to a point at the end of the book. I think that's right, I had sent my first copy to the publisher already for review, but I got a email from someone who was telling me that on that particular day that I sent the book to the publisher ready for printing, on that particular day, they told me in this email, the Blessed Virgin Mary had appeared to someone in Medjugorje, which is the new name for Yugoslavia, and someone, the Blessed Virgin has been appearing there since 1981 on a monthly basis, and this particular month she appeared, and she said amazing things to this visionary, things like, my son is sending you many clues, my son is sending you many miracles, I'm showing you how to notice them. I'm showing you how to read the signs of the miracles. He's trying to impress upon you his love, etc. And that was precisely the mission of the book I just wrote. The mission statement in the book I already sent to the publisher all said the same thing. So what a tremendous coincidence miracle this was, because the book was typed and its mission statement was there, and it cited that God wanted me to write these books with all these miracle stories to convince people that he wants people to talk to him constantly, certainly every day. He wants to have conversations with every single person. And if you do that, the book is filled with proof of many miracles where if you do that and you talk to God about things every day, you're going to notice miracles and you're going to see God working in your life. So, I mean, I have absolutely no doubt there's a God after getting all these miracles and clues. And I don't create the miracles, by the way. I'm just experiencing them and sharing them with people. Why? Because God has inspired me now. You wrote the books. I want you to convince people to read the books. So you could read the books and read about 200 miracles that you can also experience in your life. And the miracles I experience are not just unique to me. They're things that God has done for me, but he'll do them for everyone who talks to him and tries to become his friend. All right, so another thing that happened now was after the book was revised and we put that in, and we put the story of Medjugorje that I just mentioned to you, I called it back, we put it in, the publisher agreed, and now he's wrapping it up again for the second time. And so one day while that was happening, Jesus inspired me again. You know, the word inspired is two words. It's in and then inspired, and that means that the Holy Spirit is coming into you and giving you ideas in your head. And so he was inspiring me, and he said, Tony, I want you to go and open a book at random. Just trust me, open it at random. I've got a message for you. So I said, okay. So I went, I got the book he told me, the famous book that I've been reading for many, many years. It's called He and I, He being God and I being me. The title of the book is He and I. It's written by Gabriel Bossis. It was written in the 1940s, 1950s, and it's about God speaking to Gabriel Bossis every day. She would talk to God and get messages from God. amazing things. A wonderful book. It's just a conversation between her and God. Proves that you can talk to God again. Just like the 10,000 saints we've had in history. We've had 10,000 saints in history. They all talk to God. So it shouldn't be a shock that, we can talk to God. It's obvious. But he told me to go open this book, he and I, at random. So I picked it up, kind of reverently, with great expectation. When God says to do something, I'm expecting. I asked where to put my nails, my 2 thumb nails, on what page before I open it. I got inspired. Yeah, put your nails there. And then I said, well, when I open it, do I read on the left side or the right side? I got inspired, read on the left side. Okay. So I opened the book. And sure enough, I looked at the left side, and in that particular book on that day, and all this is very detailed, explained in both books. You'll find it explained in the books. And it said that Jesus had said to Gabriel Bossis that it pains him and he suffers greatly because he's present with every single person all day long, 7 billion people. He's present with everybody constantly. And most people ignore him. They just don't pay attention to him at all. Can you imagine how painful that must be? Like if you have 10 friends and 2 of them ignore you, well, that bothers you. You have 2 friends that, aren't paying attention to you. But if you have 7 billion people that you actually manufactured and created and gave life to and gave the universe to live in, and they ignore you, billions, you're talking about billions of people, and this happens in every generation after generation, people ignoring him. So this was an absolute confirmation. Jesus was showing me, and he explained to me after that, this is why I had you write the books about 50,000 miracles. I had you write the books because I'm suffering in frustration and irritation. People think I don't care. People think I'm dead, that I don't exist anymore. But I'm really there with each person. I want everybody to talk to me. So he was patting me on the head, and he's kind of saying thank you. Now, I know that sounds strange to most people, but I've been trying to be his friend for 50 years, and I know when he's trying to pat me on the head because he's grateful. And why does he get grateful? Because he gives us free will. And if we do the things he tells us to do, he's very pleased with that. And most people don't even ask him what to do, unfortunately, and it pains him greatly, like what house to buy, what car to buy, what city to live in, what college to go to, etc., which person to marry. We don't ask him anything, so how are we doing his will? All right, so that was a great gift to me now. And I finished that, and he said, Tony, I want you to go open another book at random. This is in the same day, at the same time, within the same hour. I said, okay, Lord. So he had me go get the book called Imitation of Christ. Very famous book, extremely famous. It was written in the year 1391. It was written by Thomas à Kempis. He was a monk in a monastery. And this book, written in 1391, is filled with conversations of the monk talks to God and God talks back to him. The whole book is filled. And it was written in the year 1391, and Christopher Columbus actually read the book in 1492, 100 years after it was written. And all the saints, most of the saints have read it. The priests, when they go to study to become a priest in seminary, it used to be required reading because a priest is going to become an imitator of Christ. And so the book Imitation of Christ is very famous. And so he had me go open that at random. And sure enough, this book said the exact same thing that Jesus had us asking in our book, namely, Jesus wants every human being to have conversations with him as a friend, face to face, every day. Ask him questions, listen to his answers, and life becomes abundantly more happy, a happier, fuller life. And you have Jesus as a friend all day long, talking to you whenever you want to talk to him. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.